back to another episode of Bobble Pod. A very interesting episode today. We're going to be talking about Bobble's seasonal strategy, hosted again by me, Mr Bobble. Last 3 episodes have been really, really good. Where we've been, where we're going, a digital marketing recap. But on this one, we've brought in the team. But before I begin, as always, don't forget to like, follow and subscribe if you're listening or watching on YouTube. And don't forget to follow the Mr Bobble official social media platforms, all which will be shared on social media, clips, descriptions, etc., etc. So we have the Bobble Media management team here. And I'll start by introducing Lewis. Hello, Lewis.
Hello. Yeah, I'm Lewis. I'm the paid media manager at Bobble. Been here for about 2.5 years now, I think, Manny. Is it?
Too long to remember.
Yeah. Just a fair while. So yeah. Oh,
one of the OGs, as I call him.
Yeah.
As I get down with it. We have Joel, our SEO manager.
Hi, I'm Joel. I'm the SEO manager here at Bobble, and I'm fairly new to the team, but I bring a load of experience.
Yeah, quite a lot of experience. You've got like nearly 15 years experience in the industry.
Over 15 years.
Immense. And my second in command when it comes to managing clients, Mollie, our digital account manager.
Hello. Mollie, digital account manager. Been here for 9 months, start of January. Digital account manager, look after all the clients, keep them in check, keep this lot in check.
As best as she can. So today we're going to be talking about Bobble's seasonal strategy. We're recording in September. In the last episode I talked about how, if you go into supermarkets, you're already seeing Halloween, Christmas stuff in supermarkets, the initial stuff. Big companies, big retailers, most e-com are already geared towards Christmas. Most of their planning is already done. They're now implementing their planning and delivery. It'll be light right now, but then it'll tensely increase. If you're B2B, and you're trying to sell, B2B, let's say Christmas hampers or stuff like that, you'll slowly start now in terms of getting the awareness out there to get inward spend, because most people won't do their hamper spend last minute. They'll do most of it either in October, November, and try and plan ahead of time in terms of knowing what to send out to staff members, etc., stuff like that. But there's also other types of B2B kind of markets within that. So the goal today is to go and deep dive into that. So we've done an introduction with everyone. So it is September. We've got a lot of seasonal activity coming up. I'm going to start with you, Lewis. Mm-hmm. Which seasonal period do you think is going to be the most difficult this year?
Well, usually, pretty much every year it's around about the same. If I'm honest, it's usually around the Black Friday period, which I think lands in November, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
The Black Friday season, especially for e-commerce, seems to be a bit of an issue with a lot of people. They all sort of instantly think that, you can build a campaign or build an ad within a few days of it running, and then it's just going to perform great, which is obviously not always the case. It involves a lot of planning, a lot of strategy beforehand, and just making sure that you've got everything in advance. And then Christmas again, people need to start thinking about advertising now, not in December time when they're actually going to be spending a lot more money. So things like building awareness and so on is probably the key at this point, and planning ahead. Both ones, yeah. So
what are you doing right now to prepare for like Halloween, Black Friday, Christmas with clients?
It's a good question.
I get a good understanding of what he's actually doing.
It's a good question.
Let's have your one-to-one, Lewis. What are you doing right now?
One-to-one. It's looking at like things that are coming up. So finding out their events planner, what's coming up, looking at their website, doing a little bit of research, and research what's coming up as well in terms of current trends. So, for example, AI is coming up. There's a lot of new things on Google that's changing. So finding out if there's things that we can start implementing now and planning ahead for. For example, they have AI. I think they have AI speech coming in, the AI imagery, a lot of content. So we need to be planning ahead and speaking to the clients. Obviously, using people like Mollie, for instance, the one-to-ones to find out what's going on, and looking at the Marcom's calendar.
And that brings me perfectly into what you're doing, because obviously digital account manager role involves, making sure clients are all prepared.
Yeah.
We plan. They attend the bi-weekly calls. So what are you doing right now to prepare for the seasonal period?
So Lewis mentioned it a bit, but Marcom's calendars, marketing and communication calendars.
Yeah.
So they run January to December, but sitting down with clients and saying, what do you have planned? So whether they're a business that needs to sell tickets, tables, get bookings, or whether they're selling a physical product, what is your launch period? What is your kind of timeline for selling tickets, for booking tables. We've got a client who's launching Christmas ads tomorrow, 4th of September, for Christmas tables. So we've had to sit with them.
Yeah, that's Covent Garden. That's
Covent
TGP,
Garden.
Yeah.
So sitting with them and saying, we need everything. So we need creative, we need any copy details, we need booking links, we need landing pages live. And I think with clients, a lot of the time it's getting them prepared for what we need. Because they might think, they just need a graphic and some copy and the details, but we need landing page, the booking needs to be live, the whole customer journey.
Yeah.
And getting that so far in advance that we, like Lewis said, it's then having it ready to go live so early so that budget can be made the best out of.
Yeah, maximising the budget flow, yeah. And it's a lot different, isn't it, for SEO, Joel?
Yeah.
Because you can't just turn rankings on and off.
No.
So what are you doing right now?
So you absolutely can't turn. You're right. You can't absolutely can't turn rankings on and off. What I'm doing is I'm doing keyword research, getting content topics ready, liaising a lot with the client to find out what their plans are actually, and what products they would like to push. Because now, if for example we have a client that sells hampers or advent calendars, now's the time to rank. You know, as you mentioned in the intro to the pod, we need to have this. It needs to be prepare. If you don't prepare, you lose, basically. And to rank, you need to start early. I mean, we're still ranking for Father's Day keywords now.
Yeah,
it's not. And we've got to. It's a year-round thing, really. The client might have already have a Christmas page, and that'll just need updating.
That's quite an interesting point that we need to get across, I think, to listeners. Is a lot of what we're building on is what we've already done the years before.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're all, obviously I know you're new, but we've already done that within a lot of our seasonal clients in hospitality, food, beverage, hampers, gifting, tickets, etc. So it's because you have to keep these keywords active constantly, making sure you get the rankings by adding what we call page authority, building page authority over domain authority. So it's making sure there's no new keywords that we need to be adapting for, isn't
that's
it?
Right.
So it's not something you just say, we're going to start now and hopefully rank for advent calendars come December. The foundation of that was done years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. We also need to, but you need to evolve. So it's evolutionary. You need to, for example, make a lot of transactions now take place on the mobile. It's imperative that your website is mobile friendly. So that is one thing we're doing across the board. Is checking that we're doing usability audits. We're doing core web vitals audits, just to make sure the website is usable. Because the last thing you want is for your website to crash during Black Friday.
Yeah, and for me, if I'm going to give my final bit of advice, is strategy and planning. You should be planning this stuff before you go away for your summer break. And it's a bit weird because it's like, we're in summer, we're thinking about Christmas, but you have to be a whole season ahead with your activity. And I think the key thing I've taken from the first segment is communication. You need to make sure that you have everything in place so that the paid media can optimize and deliver, because they need time for learning and development and A/B testing in line with what's happening in the elements. And from an SEO perspective, it's completely different because it's keyword researching, evolving, understanding what's new, and improving those rankings as the search volume for those rankings increase over time. So the next question I've got really is, for each one of you, is in the final quarter of the year, which is the peak time for us as an agency, especially when it comes to e-com, what advice would you give to an e-com business owner or an e-com marketing team right now? What one piece of advice would you give, Lewis?
I'd say start planning ahead, as early as possible, really. I think especially if you're mentioning just e-commerce specifically, you need to be 3-4 months in advance always. And this comes to, not just obviously your creatives, not just your headline descriptions, planning your campaign build and everything else. It's down to your website as well. So you're making sure that you've actually got a plan for your website or the specific landing page, and just ensuring the usability of that as well. So for example, as Joel said, making it mobile friendly first, because that's probably where 80% of your users are going to be from first. So just making sure, if it's e-commerce, for example, looking at your add to cart and looking at how that works, the full process of it, making sure there's no issues. If you're using things like ClearPlay, Klarna and so on, making sure that all works correctly. And just having a I guess, the shareability of knowing what your goal is for that, for this last quarter, for example, because it might not be the number or volume of sales, it might be, your return on investment, for example. So, knowing what spend is going to, come out of the whole thing towards the end, or knowing, I guess, setting yourself challenges as well. So, have you got a revenue goal? Have you got, the ROAS goal? Have you got a CTR goal? Finding out what these are and just making sure that you research before you do go ahead and actually put any strategies into place.
Yeah, analytics.
All the time doing it, yeah.
Analytics and measurement's key to it. Mollie, Joel, anything you want to add to that?
I don't think we can add much. I think from an SEO perspective, it's very similar as well. Just make sure your content's ready. Just make sure you're ready. Even if it's just a draft right now, it has to be ready. You've got to plan. You've got to have something in place. Even if and you've got to have a plan as to whether you're going to make your website Christmassy or not. So things like elves, Santas appearing on screens, snowflakes. You've got to be ready. You've got to have that ready. You've got to have that in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Because it's an extra layer onto your website, and if that crashes, the customer won't be happy.
Yeah.
And you've got to deliver the right user experience at all time.
Yeah, I think for me, like I've just said, like Marcom's calendar, get it planned out, cover paid media SEO, website changes, organic, email, physical marketing, anything that you're doing printed, and then look at what you did last year. Like Joel mentioned, it builds year on year. You might have video content from 3 years ago that you forgot about. Use that. It's not only going to save you money, but it's already done. You might know it works. You've got stuff there, evergreen. Re-edit it, reuse it, restyle it. It's you've paid for it already. You've got it. Just prepare lists of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, products that you're going to mark down, products that are going to go on sale. Do those independent pages, product pages need new SEO work? Do they need work for paid media? Are they good on mobile? Every detail for that customer journey.
It's more than one piece that we've given from everyone, but I'm assuming you get the gist.
I think just to add to that as well, just aligning. So I know we've mentioned a little bit of everything from each of these channels, just making sure that all the channels align as well. So for example,
an integrated approach,
organic, align your work with SEO, so some of the keywords that you research from there, making sure that everything sort of falls into one place. And it's not just about the last quarter of the year and starting at the start of last quarter. Plan ahead, plan from January onwards, because you know what you're going to be doing towards the end of the year anyway. So at least start implementing these things and do it in small doses. Obviously with SEO it's a little bit slower, a slower approach, but it's a long game, so you need to make sure that you're getting it as early as possible.
So we've talked a lot about econ, but what about our non-econ clients? What about our B2B clients? Especially those who rely on, maybe ticket sales, bookings. What about them?
It's very similar approach, if I'm honest. So it's all about planning again, and just making sure that you're taking that, I guess, that circular approach, where SEO, organic and everything else is all connecting as one. Again, it's all about having a plan ahead. So, have you got an example of leads that you need to hit? Have you got a cost per lead that you need to hit? And finding out that, and it's not about like the start of that last quarter, plan January.
Okay, so I don't want the listeners to hear about planning. So let's look at it from a deep dive perspective in terms of what platforms then. So we've got e-com and we've got non-e-com. What platforms, what tactics then within paid media could clients be using or thinking about, or how much they should be thinking about to spend on a platform, which can vary from large to small clients?
Yeah, so I think for lead generation especially, one of the platforms obviously to look at would be LinkedIn. But the only downfall about using LinkedIn as a platform for lead generation, it's a much more expensive platform. So you need to make sure that you have, a budget to be able to afford it, because the cost per lead is just expensive compared to obviously a Google search. And again, going on to that, you probably wouldn't use things like Facebook and Instagram, because it's just a platform that you wouldn't really use for a business side of things. It's more so, I guess, again, e-commerce. So you have to balance out and look at researching which platform works for you, and look at, I guess, your similar, competitors and find out what they're doing. So using, for example, tools that we have like SpyThrough and so on to see, okay, well, what keywords are they looking at? And there's other platforms as well. So you can look on LinkedIn to see if you can obviously see similar ads. You can look on Meta as well and use the ads library to find out, okay, well, this is around about an estimate of what my competitors are. Give them a search. Are they running any ads? Yes. If not, okay, fine. Okay, well, we've got a little bit of space to look at things now. And is it worth running?
I think when we look at seasonal advertising in terms of channel selection and media spend, which is what a lot of clients ask us as questions, isn't it? I think we can agree to that. Is like, what should we spend? How much should we spend? Etc. What should we do? It's on us, and we use tools like Global Web Index data, which is great for audience profile. And you use that a lot, don't you, Mollie? It helps us understand, by audience, whether it's direct to consumer or B2B, what is the media consumption, what is the media behavior on different channels. So when you're trying to answer the question to yourselves, if your businesses or marketing departments listening in on this, it comes down to, well, try and first of all identify who your audience is, then identify the media consumption of that audience. That helps distinguish which channels you should be prioritizing with your budget. So if you've never done it before, you can start learning which channels to focus on. But there's that many channels and tactics out there, from TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest, X, Meta, which is Facebook, Instagram, and Messenger. Then you've got WhatsApp Business. Then you've got Search, Bing, Google, Apple. You've got it displayed. There's a lot, and it can get overwhelming and it can get very confusing. The idea is focus on the areas where you think your budget's going to be maximised. So if you have a low budget to spend, stick to the main platforms, really. But it's not just about spend, it's about how good your message is. So bringing you in on that, one, how important is planning the messaging and deep diving into actually more like how should they best prepare for content? How should they best prepare for content creative?
We have a client who relies on ticket bookings for like a children's outdoor play area. And for them, we knew last year we didn't have the best Christmas content. They won't mind us saying this because we've discussed it millions of times. But we know they didn't have the best content for their seasonal events, so Halloween, Christmas, summer camping. So we said from the outset this year, you need to have decent content. And they've gone and done that. So we now know for Christmas this year when Lewis is building their ads, and for Halloween this year with the same ads, we have really good content. So taking learnings from last year, and then from the outset, so as soon as Halloween ended last year, I mean, I wasn't here then, but I know Lewis from the outset said last year, didn't have great content this year, so make sure to film this Halloween. So next Halloween, the ads are going to be better. We can run them on PMax, Google, because we'll have really great content. They're now doing a Sky TV ad this year because they've got content that good.
Good.
So it's just making sure that we're picking up on things last year and learning from that and improving on that.
Okay. And what can, let's say from an SEO perspective, what can a company do to prepare in terms of seasonal keywords, and getting rankings?
So to get rankings, it's cheap. As I mentioned, recycling the content, but now you've got to consider those zero-click searches. So searches whereby the users enter the keyword but just found the reply on Google. It's the AI snippets and all that. So you need to feature in those, and you need to answer. SEO for me is about answering someone's question, whether it's Christmas or not. And things like rich snippets, reviews, photos, you need to implement schema on your website. That's important. You need to implement all kinds of rich snippets and ensure that, the information's there for them. So let's take stock. Where are we all with our clients' Christmas planning right now? Are we on target? Are we behind?
On target, I'd say.
Yeah.
So I mentioned for Covent Garden, TGP, their Christmas ads will go live tomorrow, their initial ones. The rest of them will be live by end of next week. The hamper client, we sent out a Christmas email, or Christmas-themed email, end of August for corporate hampers.
Yeah.
Buy them now whilst your team are off on holiday, whilst it's quiet, whilst you've got the time.
Yeah.
That email made sales on the corporate hampers that were mentioned in that email.
Good.
So it's getting ahead, and it's
sounding like a proper CEO then. Good.
Getting ahead.
These results.
But I know we've repeated it, but it's being organised, being ahead of yourself, being ahead of the curve. Joel's mentioned it, Lewis has mentioned it. And also being ahead of the client. So we always say they should never have to come to us. We should be going to them.
Yeah, I always have that saying is we should be chasing clients should never be chasing us. And I stand by that commitment, because if clients are chasing us, then are we planning? And that's a problem. No. And you do have that problem when you go to certain agencies, like, well, what are we doing for Christmas? You ask us and our clients, we're already getting ads live, just to kind of show you have to practice what you preach. From an SEO perspective then, with some of our clients, it's not as much of the work that we're doing compared to, let's say, paid media first. So where are you with regurgitating the content?
On the whole, we're on target. We're definitely on target. We've planned. We've been discussing with clients. We've got a client that sells mainly drinks and hampers, and we've been talking with her about corporate hampers already. We've optimized content. We've created blog outlines. It's all about getting the content ready. It's being prepared. I say it again, but it's about being prepared.
Yeah. A lot more difficult when it comes to paid media, isn't it, Lewis? Because you've got to plan in not just the build of campaigns, the planning, creative, adaptation, and it gets busy because campaigns you can't just turn on now. No. You're going to have to make certain elements, and then when it comes to Black Friday, you're only going to have campaigns run for a few days or a week leading up to it, and then you're going to have to turn it off after Black Friday. Same with Christmas. I think we find Christmas the most difficult because most of my strategic background or my experiences originally paid media is you run up to Christmas, then it switches for Boxing Day, then from Boxing Day it goes up to New Year's, and then it switches again for New Year's. The amount of changes around different seasonality with everything that's coming up, how are you planning for that in terms of tools and best practices?
I think it's just about managing your own time as well. I know we've mentioned a lot about the client side and the whole client planning and everything else and strategy, but it's all down to yourself as well, making sure that you do have time or extra time sometimes for these little things. So for instance, like Christmas campaigns, no matter what it is, whether it's e-commerce, lead generation, B2B, B2C, whatever, I think it sometimes it comes at an instant, so you need to make sure that I guess you're doing like the smaller things just to make sure you do have that time to do it and strategize as well. So for example, now we'll be we'll be planning ahead for, obviously these Christmas campaigns. So, Mollie mentioned one about the adventure park for the kids play area that we've got, and we're using things like site links already for Christmas time. Yeah. So then that already builds awareness. So then when we do move into the Christmas side of it, we don't have to spend as much already. From last year, we saved over 320% of spend compared to what we did last year for the current pre-events that we've already had, which means that we've not had to spend as much. We've not had to go back to the client and say, okay, well, we've overspent by, $3,000, $2,000, whatever. Because we've been planning and we've been having, I guess that knowledge of what not to do, what to do this year and so on. So
we use Asana a lot as well as a tool, which I think helps everyone because I think from an agency pain point perspective now to you guys, if you're working with agencies, is if everyone comes up to us last minute, some clients are going to get turned away. It's going to be like, no, it's going to go out late or go out when it can. So if you haven't planned and you haven't listened or attended the bi-weekly calls, or we haven't planned it, because we use Asana as well as part of tools. So it's good to use tools like Trello, Asana, Monday.com, whatever it is you use as a tool. Or what's the other one I'm thinking of? Toggle time tracking. Yeah, there's loads of ones. There's another one as well I'm thinking of, but I can't think of. Meridian use it. Slack. That's it. Slack. You got to have that communication. Sorry, you need to have that communication in place from the get-go, because we plan our build time within that. We have to allocate certain time for campaign builds, and we've already blocked out time in the diary for what we're going to do prior to, Black Friday, Halloween, Christmas and stuff. So time's already been blocked out. Now we're allocating certain time to certain clients are already well prepared, but if someone comes into us last minute, they're going to have to find time in between that. So that's why it's important to be prepared. So moving on is worst case scenario, and we know that's less likely with us because we're quite prepared with our clients, is someone comes up to us at the end of November and a business is starting their Christmas marketing then. What would your advice be, starting with you, Joel?
I'd say for a start, I'll tell them you're a bit late. It's a bit late. It's a bit late in the day.
If we're completely honest, though, if someone came to us at the end of November and wanted to get some SEO work done for Christmas, other than creating some blogs which won't have enough time for ranking factors and making some user journey experiences, there's not much we can do, is there?
No, there's not much. From an SEO perspective, there's really not much you can do. It's a bit, as I said, it's just too late. It's just far too late. You could optimize the user journey to improve but you won't be ranking for Christmas keywords.
Don't think you'll rank for Christmas keywords and expect to, be ranking for Christmas hampers or Christmas gifts or Christmas cards or whatever the product is. This is an example. The best thing you can do at that time from an SEO perspective is have relevant FAQs around delivery times for, let's say, Christmas on your website, so people can find information.
Maybe one other thing they could do is optimize the reviews, make sure they appear in the review snippet, because that can be attractive. More and more people are reading reviews before they buy. So that's one thing they can do. So that's one other thing they could do.
Reviews, FAQs, blogs, user journey, that's the basic things you can really do. And then you won't really see the value of it until next year at this stage. Client comes up to you, I think we did this as part of your interview.
It was, I was just about to say this was an interview question.
Comes last minute saying, want to get something live. What are you doing?
In terms of paid media SEO, I'd just be like, well, you're too late. Like Joel, echoing what Joel said, it's too late now. Hopefully we will have been prepared and asked them and nagged them if they needed to be nagged. But if they were a new client or if for whatever reason they hadn't been nagged, it's just saying to them, like, look, now it's too late, but these are the options you have. Yeah. So not making them disappointed, upset, angry for whatever reason. It's just saying, can't promise that. It's being honest. It's saying, we can't do this.
I think we've discussed to have a cut-off date to supply creative this year for certain events. We're like, if you don't give it to us by this day, we're not going to get anything live. So we have to hold you accountable. So if you're a business and you've got agencies or internal teams, you've got to hold your creative department, your video creative department, or whoever it is that's supplying the assets accountable. So I think what we've done this year, just to make things easy for us, is so we have the time to build and we're not rushing last minute. So we've got the challenge we have is we have multiple clients and they have different needs, and it's how you don't want to be seen as prioritizing one client who's come in last minute when another client's prepared, and that gets impacted because their ad goes live last because you prioritize another client that came in last minute. Priority will be given to those who come in first. I always do it as a first come first serve. So if the earlier you get it in before the deadline, the sooner we work on your elements. But we have a deadline date, which means we won't miss anything going live. That's something we've discussed. Is something like worst case scenario is if you pass that deadline date, we can't guarantee anything. We will do our best, but if we have the time and resource to do so, because like we said, it's our busiest period. I think it's the same for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's there's a shortened version and a longer version of it. The shortened version is, I guess, with paid media, or especially the way that I work, I'll just make sure it's done. I'll get it live. I won't be different sometime. Which is probably...
That's a difficult one, because it's like, that is our commitment. If you read our Google reviews, they love how reactive and how quick we are and responsive we are. And that's just our levels, which I actually do admire, because you do quite a lot in terms of getting things live quite quickly. But it's better when they prepare, isn't it? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it makes our life a little bit easier. It's less stress. And we would obviously prefer for them to be a little bit of a step ahead. But again, there is times where, of course, they do request it at 8 o'clock in the evening on a Friday, and sometimes you've got to do what you've got to do. With digital marketing, it's a 24-hour thing, For example, you could go over budget at 11 p.m. on a Sunday, and sometimes you just got to make sure that you deal with that problem. So, it's one of them, swings around about, I guess, with that. Yeah, it's a lot more rewarding when the results come in. It's more results driven in terms of motivation within the role. Looking ahead, where it's the first week back in January for us all. I would have had a nice rest because I'm taking most of December off, I'm going to be honest with you. Should people be looking at Easter, or is that too soon? Never too early. When should someone look at Easter? So Easter next year, I know this because it's on my birthday, but it's next April, end of April next year. What day is it? 20th of April, oh, wow. Easter Sunday, my birthday. We'll be sure to forget it by then. Yeah. I'll keep mentioning it. Yeah. So I would say probably not January. January, you should be thinking, if you're e-com or if you're having a sale, January sale, you should be thinking about January sale in January, or you should be thinking about that in December. But that's January, and then probably February onwards, knowing that it's in April. So February, March, April, and then towards the end of April. Because then you have like Valentine's Day in February, Mother's Day, then into Father's Day, then you're into summer, sporting spring, season. Summer selection, end of autumn, winter sales. Yeah. There's a lot of things. It's just Markham's calendar. It's round. Yeah.
Joel,
Yeah,
it's January, you're back in, you've had some great time with your kids and you've had a good Christmas off.
Well, I think it's different from an SEO perspective, because rankings take quite a long time to build up. So you've got to start considering it. It's got to be on your radar. Whether or not you build pages, that's entirely up to you. But you've got to start getting things ready, and because Google changes their algorithm every so often, you've got to be prepared. You've got to follow best practice. You've got to make sure your link profile's clean. You've got to make sure, your little things like any little technical problem is resolved. It's an ongoing process as SEO, and it doesn't stop.
And then it comes to Lewis, because after we get through the headache of Christmas, New Year, then the next big thing is Easter, and all the seasonal period between that, in terms of like Mother's Day, Valentine's.
It's pretty much goes straight away, doesn't it, really? So as soon as we get into January, that's it. But again, it goes off what sort of Mollie mentioned as well, like with the Markham's calendar, always looking that step ahead. And the thing is as well, like I guess where like SEO sort of connects with Google as well as such, especially for Google Ads, shall we say. You're checking those search terms, because sometimes you'll see that people are already searching for Easter, people are already searching for Father's Day, people are already searching for Valentine's Day. And especially for some of our clients as well, like they're always a step ahead for the potential customers, client base, whatever. So just make sure we're looking at things like Google Trends is another platform that we can have a look at, especially to find out, okay, well, now it's trending in February, so this is where we start putting in research, implementing some of these changes, and having a bit of a strategic overview on things, and I guess replanning ahead. And again, just working all around as well, so working together with organic work and together with SEO.
I think, I guess the main message you're going to get from this is planning is everything. But it sounds so simplistic as a message, but now you're hearing it from 3 key team members, and not just me, is the impact it has. So you should be thinking about Easter in December. So the question is January, is that too soon? No. It's like you should be implementing your next 4 months at that point, which is why I think our clients like working with us, because even though it's frustrating and they're thinking about buying their own Christmas gifts for their own families, we're like, well, what's happening for Easter in terms of the calendar? So we keep them accountable for what's happening next, so they're not last and they don't waste budget. The planning time allows to give us enough time to build up keywords, rankings, planning, marcoms, build up enough learnings within the algorithms for any paid media activity, allows to do A/B testing, get the creative ready in time so they can work with them, because then they know exactly what they're doing. So just to wrap up, final question for everyone. So if you were to give a business owner or a marketing team, that's, any final season marketing prep or advice in terms of organising year round, or any top tip you would give to it in a few words, what would that be?
Well, do you want to do this one first?
He has no clue. No, he does. Markham's calendar, I'll say it all day, every day. Have that calendar. Everything should go in that calendar, not just Christmas, Easter, New Year's. It should be thinking of hours, it's teams' birthdays, events would do, marketing showcase dates are in there, national days that apply to the business. It's key periods for us. So just making sure everything's in that calendar, and then a month in advance. So for example, now we're in September, so looking at October now, at the start of September, what's coming up, what can you prepare for, talking organic and email marketing.
How often should they be reviewing and updating their Markham's calendar?
Quarterly. Every 3 months.
Okay.
So looking ahead 3 months. So now we're in September, so I'd be looking at Christmas, October, November, December. What am I, if I was ecom, what are my key sales period? When are things going to go live on the website? When are blogs going to go live? When are ads going to go live? When are they going to finish?
Yeah.
Because it's quite a pacey period.
I think from an SEO point of view, it's making sure you're on top of things. Make sure check your rankings regularly. Make sure you're not losing traffic. Look at past trends. Look at things where you can make quick gains. Are there other things you could be doing? Are there more you could be doing to optimize your website? Other clever little tricks you can do with usability and things. And it's just making the user experience better.
Yeah.
And I think,
You've had time now, Lewis.
No. Do you know, I did have an answer like initially, and it was very simple. So, plan. Always plan ahead. Strategize obviously way in advance, and then implement. And then after that as well, optimize, because it's not just a simple case of implementing it and that's it, away you go. You're always optimizing, making changes, looking what's going on, what's not going on, Google Trends, spy through SEO, find out what your search terms, everything else. But yeah, I think it's just making sure that you're on the ball with your business. You know your business more than anybody. So find out what your competitors are doing. Have a look at what they did last year against this year. Have a look at what yourself, you as a business did last year against what potentially could be doing this year. Find out the new things that are coming up for Google, the new things that are coming up for Meta, the new different ad types, different things. Why you're not trialing this, why you're not trialing that, and have a go. Like, it's all about A/B testing and constantly chopping and changing things, because what works yesterday might not work today, and vice versa. So you always have to just plan and just have a go, because you don't know it works unless you don't try it.
I think I'll wrap up. If you're a business owner or marketing team, there's two ways to look at this. If you're working with an agency, then you need to make sure that all your creative video content, planning, website elements that you have control over are done, and that your marketing agency has a plan, has a media plan, has an SEO content plan, has keyword rankings. They have accountability given to you, so you're attending calls for performance and keeping you up to date. If you're doing everything in-house, it's doing everything the agency does on top of that. You need to make sure that you then implement those blogs, optimize everything for SEO, keep yourselves accountable, and make sure you implement the media campaigns, and always plan ahead. There's a lot of businesses that have already probably shot. I'm pretty sure John Lewis would be just in the final editing phases of their video. And what we'll be doing in, I think, November time, early December, is we'll be doing a little bit of a review of some of the best seasonal campaigns we've seen and who's hit it on the head, because it's all good as telling you what you should do, which is take away this advice and implement it within your businesses. But the other thing is, we want to show you what our clients have been doing, but also what's been going on in the industry and who has come up with a new concept, a new idea that hasn't been thought of before, that people could not mainly replicate but can take inspiration from. So thanks Bobble team, for joining me on Bobble Pod. Your first initiation to Bobble Pod. I think they did well enough that we can invite them again. I'm pretty sure on that. We'll see. A couple of one-to-ones still to have on branding. But if you're listening, thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and don't forget to follow the Mr Bobble official social pages. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Thank you for listening. We'll be back with some more content into more specific elements, with some more hosts in the upcoming episodes for the rest of this year. Thank you very much.
Yeah.